This is the official website for Farming Simulator, now up to Farming Simulator 22. The oldest official full release was for 2008, so it was a Farming Simulator 2008. So now they're going with two-digit numbers, for the years 22, and I originally got into this in 2019, so I had the 2019 version, still do. And I mostly got into it because of this add-on, Chellington Valley, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a very immersive, extremely realistic map set in Bedfordshire, UK, although they say it's fictional. They've misspelled fictional, but what can you do? And it includes a lot of different add-ons that aren't necessarily part of the regular bare bones vanilla, as they say, farming simulator. So alfalfa, clover, linseed, a lot of these. So you get a lot of stuff. But the map itself is great. I have spent most of my 353 hours on Farming Simulator playing this map, and I haven't really played any of the other maps. I've experimented, so I've put in quite a lot of hours experimenting, but it's mostly been testing add-ons, of which there are many, including Chellington Valley. This is only one of many sites supporting it, actually. It's popular enough so that it's distributed over several sites. I can't prove that it works in Farming Simulator 2022, but my understanding is it does. That's my understanding. I guess you could look it up. I mean, almost certainly somebody's done a port for it anyway. So Farming Simulator isn't really the kind of game you'd expect me to be into at all. I have really not been very into farming over the years, even if I appreciate farming. We look at what else they have to say about Farming Simulator 19, the version I have. They say it features John Deere machinery for the first time, which is a little bit surprising. A few other brands of machinery. They also mentioned that with Farming Simulator 2019, they released a port to Commodore 64, which I think is a little bit amusing, at least. I haven't tried it. It's been reviewed many other places on YouTube. Maybe we should look at the basics of the game, but one thing I should emphasize is that I'm not actually going to play this in the way that I've done playthroughs of other games. If there's anything about Farming Simulator that makes it different from the other games I've played, is that it's extremely slow and time-consuming. There's really no possible way to do it properly without spending tens of hours on it. And my 353 hours has only really gotten me started, and my farm in Chellington Valley is actually pretty deeply in debt because I'm still paying off all the machinery purchases. So I guess what we will do next is go into the simulator and take some looks. Take a look at some of the basics to figure out how you might approach it, and I'll show you how I approach it. Because there's more than one way to play the game, like most games that are pretty deep, you could say. So there's the splash screen for Giants software. So here's the main menu with the career option, the multiplayer option, which I haven't tried actually. Tutorials, of course. The mods page is interesting because it's largely downloadable. So if we look at the large tractors, if I can get this to open, these are add-on tractors that I don't actually have and which I haven't found on Steam or on most of the download sites. So this is a separate way of getting downloadable content or add-ons or whatever you want to call them. These are at least downloadable content in the sense that Giants allow these to be posted on the mods page that you get within the game. And like I said, I haven't tried any of these. You can tell that I haven't added any of these to the game. But if we go back, we have the achievements, of course, which are related to Steam. We have the options. The options are pretty predictable, pretty run-of-the-mill. So just basically for the interface, for the controls. Notice I have the screen resolution turned down below HD for this because I'm trying to go easy on Open Broadcaster and my computer. And you have these more than 3 slots actually, because you notice the arrow over on the far right there. You have all these save slots for different games, so you can choose different game start options like New Farmer, Farm Manager, and Start from Scratch. And they're basically difficulty levels, with New Farmer being the easiest, Start from Scratch being the hardest. New Farmer will actually include basic equipment you can start your farm with. I think that's actually one of the ones that makes the most sense because the maps are configured for you to locate your farm in an obvious location. So New Farmer will give you your buildings and your most basic equipment to start with. But I'm not sure what else there is to say here. They do say in Ravenport we'll teach you how to play Farming Simulator, but you have these other maps, so the American Valley Fishing I don't like very much, but it includes a lot of other stuff that you can use on other maps. No Man's Land is very popular as an add-on map, just like Chellington Valley. I'm going to stick with Chellington Valley though, because I've already started it and I have over 290 hours on it, more or less. Yeah, you see 295 hours just on that one map. So the last bit here, before we enter the game, which is my mature game there. So you get this mods menu where you select which mods you want to run. And this is a little bit more flexible than some other games in that you can choose to switch mods on and off after you've created a game. Not every game will let you do that. So to make your computer run faster, you could eliminate some mods you're not interested in using, because different maps will, well, present you with different needs. So here we're going to start with this collection, which is what I've had for a couple of years on this map, because I really have been messing around with this for a couple of years. So there's your kitchen in Chellington Valley, your farmhouse, if you choose the New Farmer option, which I did. Here's your stove. It's almost as nice as what you have in House Flipper, actually. This house in general reminds me of the houses in House Flipper. And the coffee machine works, sort of. Not too realistically, but it makes noises anyway. You have a genuine-looking Folgers can there. This playthrough, as I've said before, is going to be different from all my others, in that I'm going to start with a mature game and continue playing it, because this game is so slow, it's not practical to do any other way. So there's your downstairs bathroom in the house. This house, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, it's very American looking. And if you look more carefully, you can see wall outlets like there, which are obviously American and not British. So the house is very American looking, even if the map is very authentically British. There's nothing really British about this house at all. There you saw the 2 bedrooms. And there's the upstairs bathroom. So it's very detailed. And this is actually atypical of houses in Farming Simulator, in that usually you have a sleep trigger at the door for when you're going to sleep for the night, but you don't have too much else in the way of an interior, sometimes no interior at all. I would say usually no interior, which I don't like because I like stashing stuff in the house like I would in real life. But anyway, we'll leave the farmhouse here and we will do 1 harvest of soybeans from the default 3 fields that you get if you choose New Farmer as your game option. So there's my field number 1, I believe it is. We'll check the map in a bit. But it is the largest of the fields you get if you choose New Farmer. And there we have the, I think, so-so modeled soybeans. This would look a lot better if I had the graphics turned up, though. These graphics are normally much, much better than this, and it's largely the reason I got Farming Simulator in the first place, is that I was so impressed with the graphics, so impressed with how immersive it was. I thought, how could I not have this game? And then it went on sale, and I thought, that's mine. I'm going to get that. Chellington Valley is actually freeware, and it was specifically the map I wanted. Now, of course, there are some flaws. I mean, you can see how the doors on that shed back there are invisible. There's the map, and I was right. It is field number 1. And you have all the usual game options here for key bindings, and you can't actually adjust the graphics once you're in the game, but you can adjust them when you're in the main menu. See, we got closer to the shed, and now you can see the garage doors on it. Those sheds, I think, were meant partly as warehouses rather than equipment sheds, although I use them mostly for equipment. Here's a whole bunch of the add-on and built-in equipment I bought. That sower there comes with the New Farmer scenario, but now I hardly ever use it because the size of those fields makes it impractical. Harvesting these fields in full takes about 4 hours 45 minutes, counting cleanup. Like real 4 hours 45 minutes, not, accelerated time scale. Because if you look up in the upper right corner there, you can see I'm playing in real time. So this will really take 4 hours 45 minutes, although you will not have to watch that. I'm going to clip this considerably so that you only see the important bits. There's one of the tractors that comes with New Farmer, the Massey Ferguson 7719. And this wagon here, for lack of a better term, the Crampa Kipper Bandit 750, also comes with the New Farmer setup. A lot of this other stuff doesn't, though. You have either purchased it from the store, with my virtual money, of course, or it's actual add-on stuff from the internet. Most of it's actually from the original game, though, because the original game has a really, really nice selection of equipment, even if people say that Farming Simulator is all about the mods. I agree, but I also say that the original version of it, the vanilla version, isn't actually all that bad. This tractor, for example, is in it. The John Deere 8400R. I've got that one with the dual tires option. That doesn't come with New Farmer. You do have to buy it. There's the Massey Ferguson 7347 combine harvester, which I will be using in this playthrough to do the harvest. That also comes with New Farmer. There's the header for it, although I'm not going to use that header. I'm going to use another one, which I got as a mod online. So here we're going to take the harvester out to the field, because where else would we take it? I've actually placed the header in the field in advance so that you don't have to watch me struggling with it. It is 60 feet long when it's on the trailer, and so I tend to get it stuck. It's just going to make me look like an idiot if I try to take it out to the field with you watching. So I've already brought it out to the field. I have to get out of the harvester and open that gate. The Chellington Valley map was built by a guy whose screen name is OxygenDavid, but he, as far as I know, didn't build anything else that I use in this playthrough. I actually have a wide range of developers who have built the different things that I'm using. Some of this, of course, is built into the game, like the Combine. But I am using largely add-ons as far as equipment is concerned in this, mostly for speed, because for fields this size, if you're not a real farmer, you don't want to spend an actual entire workday in the virtual fields. So you don't want to spend 8 or 9 or 10 hours. Maybe 4 hours 45, which is what it takes when you're using the 60-foot header, as we'll see. So you can spend 4.5 hours of your day off doing gaming instead of the whole day off. The 60-foot header is almost too big for this harvester because this harvester only has just enough horsepower for it. Because this game is realistic enough so that the horsepower of your tractor or combine influences what add-ons you can use with it. You do need to have enough horsepower and torque to turn over the tool, whatever you're using. And this Massey Ferguson is just powerful enough to take the biggest header in the game. Mods included, as I said. I mean, there might be fictional headers which are bigger than 60 feet, but as far as I know, the one that I'm going to use, which is authentic, the Midwest Durus 60-foot, which is actually made not in the Midwestern US, but in Australia. Actually, speaking of mods, there's the Man 6x6, specifically a Man TGS, and the mod was made by somebody with the screen name PM Modding. The Midwest Durus, or maybe it's pronounced Durus, I don't have a source on that, is made by somebody whose screen name is Hispano. So the Combine is so big that actually once you attach the header to it, you underestimate how big the header is, actually. You'll see that. There it is, sitting on the trailer. So I have to figure out how I'm going to hook up to that without damaging too many of my soybean crops here. The game, again, is somewhat realistic. It's not the most realistic thing I've ever done. Simulator is sort of a loosely defined term in this case, but it is realistic enough so that if you drive a tractor or a combine over your crops, you kill your crops. So you have to watch out about that. When you're spraying your crops, just like in real life, you want to use a tractor with non-standard skinny tires that are especially for crop spraying. But this combine doesn't have them because it's just assumed that the header will pick up the crops, put them in the hopper of the harvester, and the tires become irrelevant because they'll be rolling on mud. But as you'll see here, I'm going to lose some of my crops backing up here because there's no way to avoid it. In general, this header is so big it's hard to find a place to put it, actually. I tried putting it next to field number 1 and it was even more hopeless there. See, it's even dragging on the trailer, see that? It's very hard to negotiate this thing. Even though, as I said, the combine is so big that once you attach the header doesn't look as big, but it is big. See, I'm having trouble getting around the corner there with it without crashing into the wall there. So I'm going to actually try to turn into the field number 1 right away and start harvesting immediately here because I don't see why not. One thing I've learned from watching actual farm videos online as well as tips and tricks videos like my own playthrough online is that when you're doing anything with a farmer's field, I'm unfolding the harvester so that I can do some work there. One of the things that you want to do is do a lap around the field so that you have some place to actually turn around and do your lines of, harvesting or planting. That seems like obvious, but it's something that I never thought about because I'm not a real farmer. It's something that I've learned from the internet, that you And since then, looking at farmers' fields and looking at how real-life farmers work them, I've discovered that they're telling the truth. That's exactly how they work their fields. They do a lap around the field, and then they use that to turn their harvester or tractor around. So here we're going to do our lap around the field. One problem is this field is so huge that the hopper of the harvester will fill up before we complete the lap. So I'm going to have to go over to that manned 6x6 truck, unload the harvested soybeans into it, and then go back to work to finish the lap around the field. So once I clear these crops, harvesting them, I will have a mud track around the field. So I can turn the harvester around in the mud track to do each pass across the field. As I've said already, I am surprised I like this game so much. It's certainly not a game I would have expected to like, but when I saw the graphics from Chellington Valley, I was hooked and wanted to have it. And I found that it's actually a lot of fun. I've really got no complaints, no significant complaints anyway, about this game. I can comment that it is the most time-consuming game I have ever had. I've never had a game like this that takes the number of hours that this takes to play. I mean, I've been fiddling with this for literally a few years before making this video, as evidenced by the version of the game. I mean, the game is from 2019, and I'm only doing this now in 2023. I did buy it a little bit later than that, but not by very much, and you can see, as I've said before, I have almost 300 hours just on this one map, which has really been the one I've spent the vast majority of my gameplay on. And it just didn't seem to make sense to do traditional playthrough starting from the beginning, because you just wouldn't see very much. You don't really start to hit your stride until about this point in the game, where you have a good harvester, some good tractors, very large planters or sowers, and so on. Very large plow. Helps to have also in it the large disc harrow I also have to avoid using the plow some of the time. So it takes a long time to accumulate all of that. And as I've said, I'm only just starting to hit my stride with this particular save game. And that's the downside of it, because if you want to do something with your life other than gaming, the question is, whether you want something that doesn't give you instant gratification, or at least prompt gratification, because this takes a very long time. It makes it feel more realistic, even if your crops grow to maturity in 3 days, which isn't very realistic. But most other respects it is. You just basically have to spend as much time as you would have to spend in real life, almost. Maybe the maintenance tasks are a lot faster. But if you're going to be out in these fields running the harvester, it's going to take you, like I said, 4 hours, 45 minutes. At least if you count the little bit of cleanup at the end and the sales of the crops too, or the storage of the crops if you want to put them in your silos, which you do. You have silos in Farming Simulator. Now here I'm running into my horsepower problems, where the harvester only has just enough power to keep going at 1 mile an hour there. Now here at this point I wanted to check to make sure that it was running correctly, and at that point I also, of course, filled up the hopper. So I went back to the truck and I filled it up, and here's where I'm going to start skipping, because if I don't skip, you're going to be quitting this video very, very quickly. So one advantage of this, one of the things that controls menu over on the left doesn't show you, is that if you're harvesting or plowing or planting or whatever you're doing with one of these pieces of equipment, you can set cruise control with the 3 key. not the 3 key on the keypad, the regular 3 key on the main keyboard. And that will not only be easier on your hand, but easier on your joystick if you're using a joystick. You won't wear your buttons out as fast. So here I'm just jumping through load after load into the truck here. Typically, the Massey Ferguson can unload 4 times. Not exactly 4 times, but 3 and part of a 4th load into the truck before the truck will be ready to go. Crop quantities are not measured in mass in Farming Simulator, but in volume, so by liters. So the truck holds 33,000 liters of crop. As you can see down in the lower right, the Massey Ferguson harvester holds 8,600 liters. And later on in the game, far beyond where I am here, and you have enough money, you can get a bigger harvester which can hold a lot more than that. But this Massey Ferguson only holds 8,600. I found that this building here is a good place to stash the head when you're not using it, or the whole harvester, if you have to put the whole harvester aside. In this case, I'm going to put the harvester aside because I'm going to take that truck and drive it into town. So here I'm going to take actually a shortcut. I'm checking my controls here to make sure that I know where I'm going. So the soybeans there, I can look up the prices, as you can too if you play the game. And the MS1 sale point is the one I want, which is actually in a complex that I can take a shortcut through. Because field 118 is the one field that I've bought since starting the game, and I've actually turned it into a parking lot, if I'm being honest, because I wanted more storage for my larger equipment like the header and so on. So that means I can cut through it. So I'm going to get on that little side road there, back road basically, and I'll cut through the parking lot to get to the sales point, because as it happens, field 118 is connected to both the biogas plant, which you own from the beginning if you're the new farmer, and that biogas plant is connected to the complex of sale points, which includes MS1. This truck, I like everything about it except for the physics. The physics model is very, very jerky and not very realistic, like almost no inertia. Overall, I love it because the other thing is the bucket on the back of it is an add-on itself. You can choose to have a dump truck bucket like this one, or a tank, any number of things, whatever you need. You can also use it as a semi-tractor. You can kind of see how it would work as a semi-tractor there, albeit a kind of a long one. So here I'm trying to be realistic in switching on the headlights and the flashers. I'm going to be in this sort of industrial complex, sort of strip mall, sort of a lot of things, where the sale points are. A lot of the best sale points are actually in this complex. which can actually reduce the interest of the game. It can make it a little bit more boring because of the predictability. You keep returning to the same place again and again. Now, since this is a European dump truck, if I wanted to, I could dump over the side, because a lot of European dump trucks can do that, including this one. But in this case, I'm going to do it the American way, and I'm just going to dump out the back. Notably, this is the original German version of the MAN, with the left-hand steering wheel. There are relatively few vehicles for Farming Simulator with the right-hand wheel for the UK and Japan, among other places. Even a lot of the British vehicles have the left-hand steering wheel. Weirdly, the ones that have the right-hand steering wheel are not always the ones you expect. The traffic is realistically modeled running on the left, though, in this map. But we haven't seen very much of it yet. So anyway, I've unloaded the dump truck there. I can go back to the field now. There's the biogas plant. It's useful both because it can produce digestate for your fertilizer needs, which is free because it's yours, but you also get money off the biogas. So when you dump, basically organic materials into the hopper that they give you, it will produce digestate, but it will also produce you biogas at a profit, even though you can't actually use the biogas yourself as a farmer. Not in Farming Simulator, anyway. The only reason I don't use it more is that sometimes you can get a bigger profit for things like silage and grass clippings and other things from other sale points. Because silage, of course, is meant to be feed. It's not really meant to be fertilizer or compost or anything like that. There are also ways of making compost in this game also, I should note, especially on this map. This map has a compost add-on built into it. And manure will also work, because if you have animals in this, they do realistically, or try to realistically simulate manure. Which kind of makes it funny that there's a game that features manure, but there you go. It's Farming Simulator. I always have trouble with this corner here with the bigger vehicles, with the British roads, because the British roads are accurately modeled, very, very narrow. Not all of these vehicles are really engineered for Britain. One of my favorite vehicles to buzz around on is sort of a semi-fictionalized Vespa clone that somebody made. I don't have it in this video, but I found it's easier to negotiate the roads with it than with a car or truck, actually. So, back to harvesting here. And I'm going to start fast forwarding shortly, once I get hooked up here and back to work. Actually, there's something important I forgot. I still have some leftover soybeans in the harvester. This is something to remember after each sale, basically, is that you'll usually have something left over in the harvester that you want to put in the truck before going back into the field, and that way you get a better run on the field before you have to come back. It's very easy to forget that, because usually the tendency is to be eager to get back to the field and do some more harvesting. So, up in the upper right you can see my money, which is much more than it was before I sold the soybeans. And as you can see also, I have now harvested a lot of other crops. So here we fast forward again. We have another truckload of soybeans to deliver. And as you can see in the upper right, my cash is shooting up as I sell the soybeans. I apologize for omitting so much detail in this, but if I hadn't, this video, as I said, would have been 4 hours, 45 minutes long. So there they give me my total, 60,902 pounds harvest income. I don't know how prototypical that is. And here's the next load. You can see the clock jumping too, how long it takes me to do each truckload. I don't know why I selected this as what to keep. I think it's because it's the most satisfying, because this is when I actually make some money in the game. And back to the farm again, and now you can see the Intercity 125 coming by on the railway line there, an authentic 1970s Intercity 125 train. The trains are kind of cool in Chellington Valley too, even though I think the only two ones are the Intercity 125 and the Flying Scotsman, actually. Trains also can feature as a means of transporting your crops in Farming Simulator. I haven't tried them yet. I don't think they work in Chellington Valley, but on the other maps they supposedly do. The main disadvantage, I would argue, is that the distances in Farming Simulator just aren't that great. So here we have another load right after that go in field number 2. And my balance continues to increase there, predictably. Now the final bit, field number 3. Actually, I think it was field number 3 before, now that I'm thinking about it. As I've said already, this video is heavily clipped and edited because it kind of has to be because of the length of the original footage. No, actually, no, it was field, so I did field number 1, field number 2, now I'm field number 3. I just finished the last of it. Or actually, no, one little bit here. One little bit more. And then I will have harvested everything. And believe me, this is extremely time consuming. I mean, if you want to watch hours-long videos of people running the harvesters, you can look at other videos. I'm trying not to bore you too much with this. And I'm not 100% satisfied with how I edited this down, but I figure anything I do is going to be a bit of a compromise. Because as I said, this game is like no other, with the number of hours that you need to accomplish basic things. I mean, you can talk about games like Minecraft that can be, games that take years, but to do basic things in Minecraft does not take as long as it takes to do basic things in Farming Simulator. Weirdly enough, Minecraft was also partly my, I don't know if you'd call it inspiration, but partly where I got the idea that this might be cool, because in Minecraft, you do a fair amount of farming, even if it's much more unrealistic than farming in Farming Simulator. You almost have to farm in Minecraft if you want to be successful in Minecraft, actually. Now, one of the other issues is that this is a 60-foot header, and that trailer is only just barely big enough. It's the biggest trailer in the game, and it's only just barely big enough to take it, and it's very hard getting it aligned, because it only just barely fits. And that is way to the left off center. I don't know if I like that. Guess I'll have to resolve the issue later. One thing I do need to do, of course, is unload the last of the crop into the truck. You might ask me, where did I get 4 hours 45 minutes to play this long a session of gaming? But the reality is I did it in several goes. Because I also feel that one of the ways to avoid getting burnt out in Farming Simulator is to not expect to get much done in a session, because it will take you a week sometimes to get done tasks that in Farming Simulator, well, might take a week, or maybe a little bit less. And that's if you really have a lot of days off and so on. You really have to push it. And as I said, that might not appeal to everybody. One thing I could say is that the maps that come with the vanilla version, not Chellington Valley, have unrealistically small fields, which makes it a little bit easier to get stuff done quickly. It's still very slow, but not as slow, because these fields, even though it's a fictional map, my sense is these are fairly prototypical size, whereas the fields in maps like Felsbrunn, for example, which is supposed to be in Germany, I believe, and Ravenswood, which is the other one, they're both unrealistically small fields, like the size of a very large vegetable garden, maybe. So you almost don't need tractors for them, but that makes it much easier to get stuff done in a reasonable time. Whereas this is pretty realistic, actually. Much more time consuming. Now here I'm taking the harvester, now finished with its work for the day, back to the main area of the farm there, because there is a pressure washer I have set up, which is part of the vanilla game, although it's not as mobile as it looks. You basically have to place it on the map as a placeable, as they call them, basically buildings, and use it from that location. If you look carefully, you'll notice I have a pressure washer there right next to the gate, because I've been working on this game a long time, but there's another one which I prefer back in the parking area that I more often use. I've forgotten why I put the pressure washer there, actually. I must have had some project I was working on where it was more practical. In honesty, I've forgotten now. The pressure washer and the dirt model in general is somewhat flawed in that the location you spray the vehicle doesn't necessarily correspond to where it gets clean. You just basically have to spray the whole vehicle until you get it, but I try to be realistic anyway and try to spray down the whole thing. See, it's completely caked in mud there, and I will try to spray the mud off. I don't know actually what the consequences are of not spraying the equipment. Some people I've noticed who do playthroughs of Farming Simulator never ever bother with cleaning anything. I mean, obviously in real life it would hasten corrosion and shorten the lifespan of the vehicles, but in the Farming Simulator universe, I don't know how important this actually is, other than making the game sort of more enjoyable for some people who don't want this idealized view of farming to be as dirty as even real farming, never mind dirtier. One cool thing about this harvester is that it's easy to get on top of it, even though it doesn't look like it would be. If you want to spray down the roof, it's actually surprisingly easy. Don't even need to use the ladder there. So now I will park the harvester where it was. Except, before I do that, I should also take it to the workshop here to do a little bit of maintenance, because if you look at the wrench icon down in the lower right there, it's maybe 60% condition. And it's not too expensive to do repairs in Farming Simulator compared to real life, so it makes sense to keep your stuff in good condition. Not really that much of an expense. In real life it might be. Might have to be a more careful consideration. But you basically go to the icon, hit the R, hit the backspace, and hit the escape key, and you're good to go. With a small fee. Being paid. So, I'm gonna see if I can get turned around here. In Chellington Valley, it can be a little bit difficult to turn around, so one of the other solutions is to back up. See if you have room to do it. And as you'll see, it's going to be a very tight fit, even doing the backing up. It's very hard to do this right. One of the things is the damage model in Farming Simulator 2019 is crude enough so that it only really models wear and tear. It doesn't model acute damage, so if you crash your harvester into something, it doesn't sustain any damage. Even though that seems like a bit of a mistake in the design of the game, that is in fact the case. It's, as far as I can tell, impossible to damage your equipment through a crash, or by driving it off a cliff or anything like that. Your equipment sustains damage through use. So you don't repair acute damage, you repair wear and tear. I'd like to put it in the same place I had it here. Roughly. Alright, so I am going to get my pickup truck next because I would like to also clean up the header to the extent that I can. And because it's so long and so cumbersome, I can't really bring it up here. So I'm going to take the pickup truck and take a mobile pressure washer and take a little repair cart made by Farmer Andy, that's his screen name. I think the farm repair cart is actually fictional, but it's very handy because it means you can repair anything anywhere. And I'll just throw that in the bed of the pickup. First I have to get the pickup down there. They're saying it's a Lizard pickup. Lizard is the generic brand name for anything either fictionalized or fictional in Farming Simulator. The Lizard pickup is supposedly based on a Ford F-150, but I guess they didn't want to go to the trouble of getting the licensing from Ford for it. Not to mention the fact that if they fictionalize it, they can basically get away with a little bit of artistic license with it. For example, it tops out at around 120 kilometers per hour, which is a bit slower than a real Ford F-Series, at least a modern one. in reality, you probably wouldn't want a Ford F-Series to go that much faster. Or any truck. Whatever some rednecks might want to do. But it's not actually realistic. They can go much faster than that. But in Farming Simulator, the Lizard Pickup 2014 basically is limited to 120 kilometers per hour. Here I have the units set to miles per hour because I'm in Britain. So I will open the gate again. Next step will be to find that pressure washer. I don't remember which stall of this complex of sheds I put it in, actually. If I'm being honest. Actually, got it on the first try. There it is. It's not actually that big. The mobile pressure washer is also not in the vanilla game. It's actually made by somebody whose screen name is Alfalfa6845. So if you want the mobile pressure washer, look up Alfalfa6845. I looked it up today on the internet and found that, in fact, it is also available for the new Farming Simulator 2022. So a lot of these add-ons actually are. Well, I would say the popular ones and the ones which are hard to find a replacement for have mostly been ported over. And my understanding is it's not an extremely complicated process. There's the disc harrow that I like so much. It's based on a Lemkin design, and actually that's in the vanilla game. You don't need any add-ons for that one. I got it relatively recently because my farmer's budget only recently allowed me to get it. This shit I've decided to use for my miscellaneous and or older equipment. I nevertheless don't want to get rid of. But this repair cart is actually quite current and quite useful. I just couldn't find a better place to keep it. Again, to reiterate, this repair cart is part of the LSFM Farm Equipment Pack by Farmer Andy. I don't think LSFM is a real brand, I don't think. I think it's fictional, but you could look that up. But these are sort of a set of generic hand carts, because the vanilla game doesn't have hand carts. It's a bit of a failure, you could argue. Farmer Andy has also released some wheelbarrows, I think as part of the same pack, if I'm remembering right. And the wheelbarrows are enormously useful also. I would say that if you... I don't know what would be the most important mods you would want, but this would have to rank among the top 10 in terms of usefulness. Wheelbarrows in particular. Because not everything is suitable for like a front-end loader or anything like that. So now I will hit the L key if I can find it here. There we go. The L key, of course, lashes things. That's how you can remember it's L. Lashes things to your vehicle. So the straps have been put in place to prevent that. In this case, basically to prevent the repair cart rolling all over the place. If I were going to improve that repair cart further, I would give it a parking brake. Because my luck with it has been limited mostly by it rolling out of control. So, I guess I have to get out of the pickup again, don't I? pickup actually is included in the new farmer equipment that you get at the start of the game if you choose new farmer. It's your starting option. Actually, in the vanilla game, there are only 2 vehicles listed under cars, and neither of them is a car. There are 2 different pickup trucks. There's this one, and then there's another pickup from the 1970s, which I think is supposed to be a Datsun, but you could dig a little bit deeper on that to find out. But you know, that type of pickup. The reason they have it isn't even so much that it's retro as that it's small, and therefore maybe preferable to this pickup truck in some situations, maybe. But if you want real cars, you have to go into the mods. Search around the internet, get whatever you like, you know. They even have Ferraris, of course. Although one of my favorites is that Volkswagen Beetle you may have spotted earlier in my garage. So here I have to figure out how am I gonna clean this up when it's up on the trailer like that. The pressure washer can also be kind of hard to start because the game's engine often misinterprets your input to mean that you want to get into the truck instead of using the pressure washer. You don't want to use the E key, you want to use the R. See, it says E, that means it wants me to get into pickup, and that's not what I want. I want to use the pressure washer. I have to move around bit by bit by bit until it lets me... There we go, there's the R, so I can start working. One difference with this pressure washer from the vanilla one, in addition to being mobile, is that it tells you how clean in the AI brain of Farming Simulator and its engine the object actually is. And somehow it just snapped off on me there. Gotta restart. Let's try this again. Should be about it. Should be 100% clean now, as you saw. So I will pull up a bit. Or not. Yeah, I'll just stay where I am. I'll unlash the cart and see what I can get done with it. Sometimes this is difficult to use when the vehicle you're trying to repair, or the attachment in this case you're trying to repair, is on a trailer, because sometimes it'll only agree to repair the trailer. I probably should have kept the harvester out here in case I had to remove it from the trailer, but let's see how I do. Okay, now we're seeing the problem I mentioned before, is it just rolls away because it's on a slope. It doesn't have a parking brake, so now I have to chase after it, and this is something that Farmer Andy should try to address. Although maybe he has. Maybe the Farming Simulator 2022 version does have a parking brake. You never know. So now let's see if I can repair this header. So far it's not... Oh, there we go. So it will let me repair the trailer but not the header. So I'm running into this old problem again. So I guess what I have to do is bring the harvester back out here. However, there's a catch, and that is that it is 17:32 hours. You can see I added 4 minutes there trying to troubleshoot to no avail. And we have a couple of things we have to do. First of all, I have to sell off the soybeans still, because the truck is still sitting out there. And after I sell off the soybeans, I'm going to want to buy a full-size, or really bigger than full-size, maybe oversized riding mower from the store, because there is a, as far as I know, prototypical recreation of a mower that not only mows grass but also creates windrows of grass so that it's easier to bale for silage making purposes. There's another version that comes with, I believe it's the Alpine DLC, which will also dry the grass into hay for you, although I don't know if that version is authentic or not. To be perfectly honest, there's a little bit of blurring of realism and wishful thinking in Farming Simulator, certainly, just to make it more playable. You can see that throughout the game, although, as I've said before, it doesn't stop it from being a very time-consuming, sometimes realistically time-consuming game. So let's see if we can get the truck back to the same old sale point here. I just got a new joystick where if you twist it, it'll move your view. So I've been relearning how to look both ways before merging. As you can also see, these vehicles are realistic enough, even if they're not always strictly farming vehicles, that they have working directionals that sound very realistic. Here I'm going through my parking area here. So those Quonset huts are add-ons. That warehouse is actually an auto-loading warehouse that you can find online. That silo is also an add-on. So I've got quite a lot of add-ons, for mods as they're called, loaded. Because as many people say, Farming Simulator is all about the mods. But I've got this one last delivery to do here. See if I can back it up. These unloading docks are easier than some of the others in the game. Some of them are in very, very cramped quarters, and one of the other things I found that in the, well, it's that in the Chellington Valley map, you definitely want a dump truck over a tractor trailer, including one of the dumping tractor trailers, because if you have a link anywhere or a dolly, basically if you have like a trailer hitch and the vehicle becomes articulated, it becomes very, very, very hard to maneuver, especially in close quarters. And then if you have a dolly, it basically becomes almost impossible to go backward. So a dump truck is really what you want, even if it won't offer you the highest capacity of any type of vehicle you could have in Farming Simulator. There's no question that on Chellington Valley you want some kind of dump truck. You don't want any kind of tractor trailer or anything that's articulated. So I'll head back to the farm here. So there's my total balance, not my total profit, my total balance, 451,276 pounds, which isn't bad at all. Although, if you, well, one of the things that you'll notice is that in the store, 451,276 will not buy you a large portion of what's in the store. The farming equipment is not even as expensive as the real thing, but your income is so low in Farming Simulator that you can't just go and snap stuff up. You can take out loans, and this farm is currently 1,750,000 pounds in debt, which I'm trying to pay down, of course, but the interest payments don't completely kill you like they would in, for example, Transport Fever or Transport Tycoon, some of the other business games, you could say, you'd find online. This is partly why I'm going to spend this £451,276 on a mower and not on paying down the debt. Because I know that if I have the mower, I can mow grass and prepare it for resale much faster than otherwise, and that means more profits in less time, and so I could use that to pay down the debt when I get to it. Let's see. So I'm going to turn into the farm again here, or the farm, I don't know what you'd call it, storage area. Parking area. We open the gate. And I think I'll spray the truck down also with the pressure washer. Close the gate. Up with the pressure washer here. And spray down the truck. I haven't gotten it extremely dirty because I haven't put too many hours on it since my last washing, but I still like having it clean. A lot of farmers wouldn't like me, I think. This is really impractical, but it's a game. So, get in the truck. I'll take it back to the shed for parking. Actually, you didn't get to see where I park it earlier, because I had already placed it out in the field to save time. So, see if we can back it in here next to that Ford Transit, basically flatbed truck. I've been trying to get a real Ford Transit, but most of them have some kind of bug in them, and at this point it's unlikely to be fixed because Farming Simulator 2022 is out. But that particular flatbed has the auto load feature, so you don't have to struggle with a forklift. And it's handy for things like delivering wool and eggs and things like that. I like it. And it can do a lot of things that this dump truck can't do. So, we will now take the harvester back out and see if we can get this harvester head or header onto the ground so that it can actually be worked on. And as before, I'm having trouble getting it on and off the trailer. Obviously, I just jumped ahead there, skipping the trip out here, because I don't want to waste your time. I'll take the repair trolley here and move it over there. Because I was able to finish the job pretty fast, I don't expect the header to be too badly beat up, but we'll see. I want it to be in good shape before I take it back to the warehouse. So, yeah. 162 pounds worth. And we're done in terms of that. So I will put it in the truck again. And it's not situated right. Let's see if I can do this correctly here. I'm not sure. Try to negotiate it from the roof of the pickup truck here. Maybe not. Alright, that should be acceptable. So we'll put the straps back in. And I am actually not going to waste my time with this. I'm going to put the header back on the trailer, but not take all the vehicles immediately back to the storage sheds, because I have to go get that mower before the store closes, because they do have opening and closing hours. That much is true. You can order stuff when they're not open, which is realistic, but you can't actually go and pick anything up, because the gate closes and that's that. You have to wait until the next morning. This header is still not situated right. Let's see if I can fix that. It's a little better. It's a little bit better centered, you see that? I still don't like it. It's still kind of crooked, but very, very hard to negotiate. So I think I will go to the store on foot, because if I bring a vehicle, I'll have to retrieve the vehicle later. Because one of the things I did test in one of the generic vanilla maps was whether I could put the mower on a trailer. And the available trailers that I have are not big enough. And if they were, I'd probably have trouble getting them over the road without crashing into something. So it just makes more sense to drive it home. So that's what I will do. And to get there more quickly, I will cut through the biogas plant and then cut through that complex of sales points. Nice they have this much detail. You consider a player usually wouldn't be walking back here. So we're through the biogas plant, and now we're in the, for lack of a better term, complex of sale points. And this is actually not where the store is to buy the mower. We'll see in a minute that that's just up the road, actually. But it's much faster to cut through here while everything is still open than use the main road. You haven't seen me on the main road yet, actually, now that I'm thinking of it. So the road is clear. If we see any traffic, you'll notice it is authentically driving on the left, though. Of course, they may not have the left hand running in terms of the right hand steering wheel. It's very hard to find a right-wing steering wheel, as I was saying, but left hand running in Farming Simulator, perfectly routine. If it's at least programmed that way. You try the German and American maps, they drive on the right. So, having to walk does take some time, but because the distances are really short, I'll probably make it before that gate slams shut. Not even 6 o'clock yet. I've forgotten whether closing for this store is 6 or 7. It's not actually 5. So we go to the shop menu here, and we have all this stuff, much of which is add-ons. I'm going to have to find the mower. I have so many add-ons, it's hard to locate. There it is. So it will be the Krone Big M 450. You can see there's also a mower conditioner option, which will make you hay. Already windrowed. But in this case, the standard one will give you grass windrowed, which is what I actually want. So I will purchase it this way. Universal Passenger is another add-on so that you can have a chauffeur drive you around if needed. But I'm going to switch it on without probably ever using it. So I paid my £380,000, which might actually be discounted. I've forgotten what the discount rules are. And I will get in the cab and I will simply drive it home. Nothing fancy. No trailers, no nothing. So I'm driving on the left properly here. I think I will try to cut through the biogas plant. It still is early enough to do it. For some reason it's saying helpers have completed their tasks. I never hired any helpers. I think that's probably a key binding problem I'll have to fix later. Probably due to the new joystick. Probably a lot of things are assigned to more than one thing, as they should not be. I do like the new joystick, though. I am going to keep it. It's a Logitech Stream 3D. Not too expensive, but very nice quality. My other joystick, the older one, is also a Logitech. Logitech Attack 3, I think. But it isn't so much that it was obsolete or that I had gotten tired of it, but more it was simply wearing out physically because I had put so many years on it. Older than my computer and older than the computer before it, if I'm remembering right. I might be misremembering. So, let's see how things are going. Guess I have to get out again. So, still not even 1800 hours or 6 p.m. So I'm making better time now. But I'm going to switch on my lights anyway. As it happens, I think I'm doing more of this cleanup stuff than actual harvesting in this edit of the video, but I guess it gives you a better tour of the map, which is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to, as I said before, just do strict from the beginning gameplay in this. I wanted it to be a little bit more of an exploration of how it can develop. I think that the nature of the game kind of requires that. So then the question is, where am I going to store it? I think I'm going to put it in one of the big sheds there. Because I still have a lot of room in those, actually. And the nice thing about this mower is that it's not articulated. And so I don't have to pull it in straight and pull it out straight forward. I can back it if I want to. So I think I'll put it not in the gap between the baler and the disc harrow, because that's where the pressure washer goes, but maybe I can find another gap in there somewhere. Let's see. The mouse is very useful to keep in the other hand when you're doing this, because it gives you better view control than the joystick, even with the twisting stick. Now that looks like it might be a good parking spot. It's a little bit tight. Let's see. It looks like I'm stuck against the wall and can't move. It's one of the side effects that you can get when dismounting. I can't jump, I can't really do much of anything except change my view. Getting in and out doesn't fix it. What am I going to do about this? Well, the shed is so big that if I pull forward, it's not going to hurt my storage space very much. Especially if I'm way over on the left here. And, sure enough, I can walk out. So I'm not going to worry about it. That's fine. Perfectly suitable. So now I'll try to fetch the other vehicles. As well leave the gate open, right? I'm going to bring the other vehicles in. Hop the fence. I think that, being I'm not a farmer, but from a farming area, I think that the harvested crops look relatively realistic. And they look better than this when you have the graphic settings at a higher level than I have them now. As usual, I've cranked the graphic settings way down so that it's easier to encode video. But my computer is powerful enough to give HD graphics when it's not encoding video, so... As you can see, field number 1 is pretty big. Certainly for a game. So this is taking a while. I'm going to walk the whole way. Let's see. I think this is the last gap in the wall here. Actually, you might notice that the harvester is missing. That's because my retrieval of the harvester is also edited out of the video. You might have noticed the clock jump as I was leaving the main area there. That's because this is 2 trips to retrieve equipment, which is really portrayed in this video as only 1. You go and pick up the pickup truck, the maintenance trolley, and the mobile pressure washer. The pressure washer actually needs both diesel and water, at least this mobile version. But if you notice there, I used 1% of the water and less than 1% of the diesel. So, should be all set. Neither of them started at 100%. I think they were both 99 when I took the pressure washer out to the field. So now I'm having control binding issues again here, struggling to get the joystick to work. As I said, the joystick's new. I don't have any complaints with it. It's just that I need to update my settings. So I'll spray it all down again. Actually, one rather un-F-150 feature of this truck is that it's got the full crew cab there. And I don't know if you can get the Ford F-150 with a full crew cab. I think that might be only for the 250, but somebody who knows Fords better than I do may be able to clarify that. But again, artistic license comes in here because they're not calling it a Ford. So I will unlash the maintenance trolley and put it away first. For some reason I'm having trouble getting it straight there. There we go. That's acceptable. Alright. Let's take a look at the stall of the shed again here. Now we want to use the other door, definitely. So put the pressure washer back where we had it before. And I've barely scratched the surface of this game here because we didn't do any planting, we didn't do any fertilizing, we didn't do any plowing, we didn't look at the animals at all, even though I have quite a few of them on this farm. Gives you an idea of how immersive this can be. And also you consider how many hours I put into just this one task. basically. 4 hours, 45 minutes. And I haven't even shown you all of it. And even edited down, the video is almost 90 minutes long. I think it's approximately 85 minutes, actually, by the end. So, yeah, I mean, great game. Simulator, so-so. But it is very, very immersive and very time-consuming, so that's both the blessing and the curse of it, easily. One thing, by the way, to uncouple this from your truck, you want to make sure it's selected with the G key. I got confused about that for a second there. Obviously, the couple-decouple key in Farming Simulator is Q, but you have to make sure the correct implement is selected with the G. So, I guess I'll bring the pickup truck back to the garage of the house here. It's nice that the garage is as big as it is in Chellington Valley, because it means you can hoard goodies like the fake Vespa and the Volkswagen Beetle and all that other stuff that I liked to get. That stuff actually in game money was not that expensive. So you might say, well, the reason I'm taking so long to finish the basics is that I'm spending too much money, but yes and no. I basically made inefficient expenditures on the big stuff, not the small stuff. Small stuff actually doesn't add up that much in Farming Simulator. It's just there for good fun. The better you know the game, the less money you waste, obviously. I think I'm going to back it in this time. I don't know why. I normally go in front first, but for whatever weird reason, I just feel like going in rear first this time. Don't normally do this with the pickup truck, even though I do it with all the tractors and the harvesters and everything. Just don't feel like doing this any other way today. So I'll back it in, maybe if only for steering practice. Pretty big garage, as you can see. Even a full-size pickup truck doesn't really dent the storage space very much. So I have space there for a riding mower. Basically, it's more than a riding mower. It's basically a lawn tractor with other implements. And the Beetle, and some bicycles, and some motorbikes. The works, you know. No snowmobiles, though, because there is no snow in the default version of Chellington Valley, although you can get a Seasons mod or Farming Simulator that gives you more realistic weather throughout the seasons. And here I am back in the kitchen again. So I guess thanks for watching. This has been a very long video.